Hi everyone, good day! Welcome to another session of Physics with Mr. Archie Maramag. So today, we're going to talk about vectors and scalars. So vectors or scalars are basically physical quantities, no? So they are physical quantities, they are found in nature, but they are very much different. So let's look at vectors and scalars. Scalars first. Scalars are basically physical quantities represented by a number. So that number will represent the magnitude of that quantity. So yun ang scalar by definition, okay? Next is vectors by definition first. Vectors are physical quantities that both has magnitude and direction. So ito yung mga physical quantities that it matters what's their magnitude, how big or how small it is, and where is it going, okay? Example of scalars. Scalars are, examples are mass, temperature, and volume. Meaning, the only thing that matters for these physical quantities is their magnitude. So for example, for mass, you just need to know how heavy you are. So 5 kilograms, there's no direction for it. Like 5 kilograms going north, going south, that does not make sense. Correct? So that's a scalar. Temperature or volume, okay? 5 ml. What does 5 ml mean? So you have an idea of what it is, but there's no need for it to expand or to say about its volume or its direction. That's a scalar. Vectors, on the other hand, example is force, momentum, displacement, velocity. So these quantities, I think you're not very much familiar with them, or siguro narinig nyo na somewhere, like for example, force. So force is basically a physical quantity that talks about push or pull. So it tells you if you are pushing something to a certain direction. So that's force. Momentum as well. So momentum is the quantification of inertia. So how hard it is to change the motion of an object is depending on its momentum. So it is, yun. And same with displacement and with velocity. I think one example for velocity vectors that we can actually familiarize with is when you go to Waze. Okay, so you're familiar with Waze, right? Waze basically tells you where to go after a certain time. So after 5 minutes, turn left, or after 5 kilometers, turn left. Those are vectors. You have 5 kilometers, okay, that's the distance, and then you go forward for 5 kilometers and then turn left afterwards. And then that's a quantification of vectors, and that's actually displacement as a physical quantity. Alright? So scalars and vectors. In a not so physical sense, okay, if you want to think of these two concepts in sociological sense, or not very physical, parang ganun lang. If you want to have a comparison to how we feel or where we're going, ganyan. Scalars is basically an effort, a score. Like, for example, when you were in grade school, perhaps, or high school, then you have a score of 100 in math, okay, or in science, 99, ganyan. So you have big magnitude of grades. But those scores are basically going nowhere, okay, if they're just a score. But if you want to put a direction to it, like, okay, I'm 100 in math because I want to be an engineer someday. Or I want to be good in English because I want to be a journalist someday. So, yung direction nun is basically where you want to go. So, scalars and vectors. Pwede rin na pag pogi ka or maganda ka, diba? Scalar is when you just have the magnitude of being good-looking. But vector is that you have the magnitude of being good-looking towards someone. So, pagka may jowa ka na, okay, so may direction na yung pagiging gwapo mo or maganda mo. But of course, ganun lang yun. Chika lang yun. Okay, so examples of scalars and vectors.